Kevin Durant left the Oklahoma City Thunder 3 years ago, and since then they have a grand total of 0 playoff series victories. After one fun, albeit quite mediocre season with MVP Westbrook at the helm, Thunder fans were optimistic that things would get better when they traded for Paul George and I guess Melo. But fans became even more ecstatic when PG re-signed, committing to the city and their favorite son, Russell Westbrook, long-term.
Let me say it again, I'm here to stay.
But in their 2 seasons together in Thunder Blue, PG and Russ only won a grand total of 3 playoff games between them. They were eliminated by rookie Donovan Mitchell and his Utah Jazz in 2018, and then of course last year, Damian Lillard delivered the coup de grace. That shot and wave by Dame ended up becoming the final goodbye to the last remaining vestige of OKC's first era of basketball. But just as quickly as things fell apart in Oklahoma City, the blueprints for the next era of Thunder basketball were already being set in motion. Hey, what's up guys? It's Colin. First, before I start this video, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who helped us reach 300 subscribers. It means a whole lot for me and helping me continue to make content on this channel. If you have yet to subscribe, please do hit that red subscribe button right below this video. And for this video, I will be talking about why I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be one of the teams to beat in this decade, the 2020s. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the absolute furthest thing from a tortured franchise. The Seattle Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City in 2008, and since then, OKC has made the playoffs in 9 of their first 11 seasons. In their inaugural year, they had second-year superstar Kevin Durant and a rookie Russell Westbrook, and a year later, they signed Serge Ibaka and drafted some bearded kid out of Arizona State named James Harden. They became legitimate championship contenders in the years that followed, eventually making it to the finals in just their 4th season as a franchise. And what people often forget is that Russ and KD were both just 24 years old during their finals run, and Ibaka and Harden were even younger. So once they gained more experience and reached their primes together, the league was set to be theirs. We all know what happened next. The front office didn't extend James Harden's contract in the offseason, instead trading him to the Rockets for chump change because OKC didn't want to shell out a couple more million per year. They would never make it past the Western Conference Finals again after that, culminating with KD's departure after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors in 2016. The OKC Thunder had a young monster core that seemed destined for greatness and could have easily been the dominant team of the last decade. Instead, losing to LeBron in the 2011 finals actually was their high point. The Thunder and GM Sam Presti know now more than ever that success in the NBA is fleeting. And with the assets they got from trading Paul George and Russell Westbrook, the Thunder are going to have every chance to draft another set of stars and pave the way for a successful decade. And this time, I don't think they're gonna let it go. Once the clock hit double zeros for the Toronto Raptors and their championship season, everyone knew that the NBA was headed for a seismic shift in power as speculation swirled on the future of the Golden State Warriors. After losing Klay Thompson to a torn ACL and KD to free agency, the team that dominated the NBA for the better part of a decade was finally down for the count. Because of this, the NBA title race was wide open for the first time in 5 years, and you better believe every front office was chomping at the bit to build a contender. But the moment Kawhi reached out to Paul George to team up in LA, OKC was suddenly taken out of the running. And with the league so wide open, it kind of felt like the worst possible time for OKC to implode. Or maybe it was just the perfect storm the Thunder needed. Because teams were not hesitant to go for broke, they went for it in trades. The Nets were the first to make a move when they traded away 2 first-rounders to clear cap space for Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. The Lakers ended up selling the farm, trading away their non-Kuz youngsters, plus 3 firsts and a pick swap in order to land Anthony Davis. Enter the Oklahoma City Thunder, sitting on their 2 superstar talents on long-term deals. For Paul George, they were able to capitalize on Kawhi Leonard going to LA and steal 5 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, Danilo Gallinari, and SGA from the Clippers. To the Rockets, they dealt Russell Westbrook, and they were able to get 2 firsts, 2 pick swaps, and Chris Paul. They even got an extra first in a deal with the Nuggets for Jeremy Grant. Now, depending on certain pick protections, that gives them up to 15 first-round picks in the next 7 drafts. That is an absolutely unprecedented haul, which gives them additional picks until 2026, or around the time Bronny James will likely be off his rookie deal. To show just how absurd OKC's collection of assets is, let's compare their draft war chest with a few mega rebuilds from recent memory, the Process Sixers and the Danny Ainge-built Celtics. First, the infamous Process from Philly, which brought 10 first-round picks in 7 seasons. But while their team had to endure through a half-decade of absolute dumpster fire basketball in order to land these picks, OKC got their 8 additional first-round picks in just a week. You might argue that the picks they're going to be getting from the Clips and Rockets are going to be much further down in the draft than the picks the Sixers had. That might be true for maybe the next couple of drafts, but will it be 3 years from now, or 5 years, or 7 years? They literally own or can swap with the picks from Houston and LA for virtually the next 7 years. For the Rockets, Harden and Westbrook are both already on the wrong side of 30. And for the Clippers, Kawhi and PG are only locked into La La Land for 1 more season thanks to their player options for 2021. And you'll never know what can happen there. So these franchises mortgaged their future to contend now and were willing to pay OKC a king's ransom for that chance. Additionally, you'll never know when another superstar is made available via trade, and the Thunder will have a bunch of assets to offer that team should that be the case. Another edge that OKC has over Philly is that longtime GM Sam Presti might have the best track record for drafting first-round talent since Jerry Krause. While the Sixers did get Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, they've had way more misses than hits with draftees such as Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor, Markelle Fultz, and MCW. Aside from KD, who was an obvious pick in 2007, Presti's 2008 selection of Russell Westbrook was actually considered by many to be a reach. The next year, he picked James Harden over 2009 Rookie of the Year Tyreke Evans, and that ended up being correct as well. He drafted late lottery talent well too, picking Steven Adams at number 12 and then trading for Domantas Sabonis at number 11. He's even found high-level talent with picks in the 20s with guys like Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, and Andre Roberson. In 13 years as GM of the Thunder, Presti drafted or traded into the lottery just 7 times. Of those 7 players, 3 of them are MVPs, 1 is an All-Star, and the other is a solid starting center in Steven Adams. I'd definitely trust him with 15 first-round picks.
Shut up and take my money!
Now, we shouldn't expect Sam Presti to find multiple MVPs again, but I think Thunder fans have reason to believe that he can leverage these picks into maybe a couple more all-star caliber players and round out a contending squad with a few top-level role guys. But I think the Thunder rebuild is more comparable to the recent rebuild of the Boston Celtics. The Celtics started their rebuild by trading away their 2 stars just like OKC did when they sent Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to Brooklyn. This allowed them to distance their own performance from the fate of their draft picks. Boston maintained a winning culture during the IT years, creating the ideal environment for Jaylen Brown and the crown jewel of their rebuild, Mr. Jason Tatum. OKC has started off their rebuild the same way. They finished the season 16 games over 500 and had the second best record in the last 15 games before the season was suspended. Instead of tanking, the Thunder have committed to playing winning basketball, which is the only kind they've ever really known. The difference between them and Boston, though, is that the Celtics kind of had to set the table for their future draft studs. For OKC, the main guy has already arrived and is just waiting for everybody else to notice. Even if Presti somehow whiffs on most of their picks, OKC already hit the jackpot with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has all the tools to become the ideal star player to build your franchise around. Most people just don't know it yet. That's because his game isn't as sexy as Zion, Trae Young, or Ja Morant's. SGA's never been the fastest or most explosive player, but his talent has a way of quietly sneaking up on people. As a junior in high school, he was just a 4-star recruit with no major scholarship offers. He had his sights set on Kentucky, but he actually wasn't being recruited by them. So he took matters into his own hands and reached out to John Calipari himself and balled out in tournaments to eventually get an offer from Big Blue. He was the lowest rated prospect out of the 7 recruits when he made the squad, but that didn't matter. He came off the bench for 13 of the first 15 games, but after a breakout performance against Texas A&M, he took the starting job and immediately became their best player. He ended up leading them to the SEC Tournament Championship, where he was named MVP as a freshman, averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists on 55% shooting. Not bad for 7 out of 7. And the same thing happened during his rookie season with the LA Clippers. He came off the bench for all of 9 games, took the starting job on the 10th game, and never looked back. In Game 4 of the playoffs, SGA announced his arrival against the defending champion Golden State Warriors by leading his team with 25 points and poised play you really wouldn't expect from a rookie. When he was traded to OKC, SGA went from fringe starter to featured player and didn't skip a beat. He doubled his scoring average from 10.8 to 19.3, but maintained his sky-high 47% shooting percentage, which is amazing for a guard. The fact that he can play any spot 1 through 3 and has the prototypical size for a wing player makes him a coach's dream on the defensive end as well. At 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, SGA can defend multiple positions and slot in any lineup Coach Billy Donovan wants. He showcased his versatility when he recorded a 20-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist triple-double in January against the Timberwolves.
20, and 10? That's so tough, bro.
Trying to catch a rush, to be honest.
Oh my God.
2020 next, you know what I'm saying?
Coincidentally, he and Russell Westbrook are the only 2 guards of the last 30 years to record numbers such as that. But I think what really points to SGA's star potential is the simple fact that he knows how to get buckets. Not only does he shoot at an efficient clip for a guard, he's also one of the best isolation scorers in the NBA. Among all players who take at least 2 ISO plays per game, SGA ranks 7th in points per possession, which is better than guys like Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, and Devin Booker. He's also 9th in ISO field goal percentage, ahead of Giannis, Luka, Bradley Beal, and James Harden. That's not to say he's not a decent outside shooter with a career 36% 3-point shooting percentage, but he does prefer modes of attack via dribble drive and in the mid-range. Shai actually drives 16 times per game and averages 10.1 points off of those penetrations, both top 10 figures in the entire NBA. His volume is also warranted by an efficient 49.1% clip, top 20 amongst players who drive at least 10 times a game. SGA is also a top 10 mid-range shooter in the league among players who take at least 2 per game. His pristine 48% on shots from 8 to 16 feet ranks even higher than Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan this year. People often say that the mid-range game is dead, but its decline around the league has mostly come from role players stepping back a few feet to take threes instead. The demand for actual star players to create their shot from mid-range is still valued now more than ever. SGA is simply showing everyone he's more than just a role player. He's a star. Most people expected CP3 to demand to be traded at some point this season, thinking he wouldn't want to waste his final productive years on a rebuilding team. Instead, he helped turn the retooled Thunder into a winning ball club. This was thanks in large part to his willingness to buy into the team, and most especially SGA. In the same vein that David Robinson guided a young Tim Duncan, CP3 has been there for SGA every step of the way, and CP3 said it himself, Shai is going to be so good.
Finish this game. Young fella had to show out for his home Canadians.
You gonna get out my interview?
You got a haircut.
Why you trying to steal my spotlight? Get out my spotlight.
You got a haircut? Go ahead.
And SGA is only going to get better as he learns from one of the best point guards in this era. While I mentioned earlier that SGA is one of the most efficient players in the league in both drives and the mid-range, CP3 is second in both. CP3 shoots 57.6% from the field on drives and 51.6% from the mid-range. And while there are those hard skills that SGA can pick up from CP3, we all know that there are some skills that really come from experience. And CP3 can also give a master class on that, and he's already been doing it this year. Chris Paul is having one of the most clutch seasons in league history. Paul leads the league in clutch points, which means points scored under 5 minutes left with a score within 5. But while most players shoot worse in those situations, when defenses get tighter and nerves get rattled, CP3 actually becomes way more efficient. His true shooting percentage spikes from 60.9% to 68.1%, which ranks 4th out of 71 players who've taken at least 30 clutch shots this season. And right there with him, learning from the best, is SGA, who ranks 6th with an even bigger jump in true shooting percentage in clutch situations, going from 56.6% to 67.3%. That spike in the clutch didn't exist last year. Side note, I want to give a lot of credit to Billy Donovan for what he was able to do with his guards on this team. I'm sure he also played an effect in how CP3 and SGA have been able to operate in the clutch. Going back to CP3, I think there still might be a chance that the Oklahoma City Thunder do trade him, but the imprint he's already made on the Thunder and their future star has already been priceless. If the Knicks really want him, a few more draft picks wouldn't hurt, right? But if the Thunder get an opportunity to go for it right now, they could opt to keep Chris Paul as the veteran leader to steer the ship. He's put up an all-star season again for the first time in 4 years and hasn't missed a game due to injury this season. This year could be the second win for his career. If Presti feels like leveraging some of his picks this early for the next available big name, they might be able to contend while CP3's around and have enough equity to remain contenders for the rest of the decade. The best thing about OKC's rebuild plan is that it's next to impossible to screw up. They can take the safe route and ride out Chris Paul's contract and have him mentor SGA for 2 more years, eventually use their picks in the next drafts and build a title team. Or they can wait for the next disgruntled superstar who wants out. It was Anthony Davis this year and Kawhi Leonard the year before that. Presti's phone would be the first call made by any GM shopping their superstar. With 4 to 5 future first rounders as the going rate for a star nowadays, they could easily get maybe Bradley Beal or Cat next season, or maybe even both with SGA still on his rookie deal. And come to think of it, they have enough picks to do both rebuilds. And that's why there's no doubt in my mind that the Oklahoma City Thunder are set to be one of the teams to beat this decade. For those who stayed along to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you could leave a like and do subscribe. It really means a lot in me continuing to make content on this channel. If you want to see a similar video like this on the Philadelphia 76ers, click the box that's showing on the screen right now. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.